So, this isn't even it.
All right, you're good to go.
All right, Ernie, where is? Hold on. Where is the? I lost it here.
On Friday. I'm gonna go way up. Just drag that way up to the top. So that's weekend and then
Oh, right here. My bad. Okay. All right.
charge of this.
Right, read it out loud.
I don't think so. You say he's requesting.
Okay. Good evening, folks, and welcome to the Board of Selectmen's meeting, March 1st, 2021. And if I can have you all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Any public comments? Okay, Mr. Glover, the floor is yours.
I promise I will be really brief and really quick.
No worries.
My main concern and my main being here tonight is the code enforcement. Now, I
Okay,
had the privilege and the pleasure of talking with Brian prior to the meeting tonight,
okay,
and I have heard and I found out that several of my concerns have in fact been addressed or are in the process of being addressed.
okay,
What you have there, Andy, is an email chain that I started back in 2009 on April 1st.
yeah,
Rick Bates over junkyards, what I call junkyards in the town of Milton.
uh-huh,
And it was a question posed to him and he gave it to Brian. Brian responded to me because I wanted to know who has a legal, legitimate junkyard in the town of Milton, if anyone. And there is one, to the best of my knowledge, or so Brian tells me now, and that's Roger Libby on Jug Hill Road in Milton Mills.
okay,
And that's the only legal junkyard in the town.
okay,
I sent Ernie this week or last week a series of pictures of an area over on Hare Road, and that is the one that I hear has in fact has had some action taken on it by the town, by code enforcement. It's
okay,
just a junkyard that, I mean, junk cars, parts all over the place where transmission fluids and oils and everything seeping into the groundwater.
Okay.
And according to what Brian tells me, that they did issue, in fact, a cease and desist order, and I'm just going on what Brian has told me this evening, that a lot of it has been cleaned up. And if that's the case, boy, they've got a long way to go.
okay.
So that has been my main concern, me personally.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Glenn Ostrowski, my neighbor, posted something on Facebook that Brian just found out about this morning.
Yeah.
Brian's comment was that he didn't know anything about it. And again, I have no Facebook, so I didn't know anything about it myself either until Glenn called me and told me. My concern over there is the trash that's building up, and I don't know whatever else can be done about that, but
Okay,
Andy, he's got 50 or 60 bags of garbage trash that's just out behind the lower shed that is just animals are now in and they're tearing it up and they're just making a mess of the place.
Okay,
So that's my concern as far as code enforcement goes. And again, like I said, Brian and I had a nice talk earlier, and I realize he is only part-time. And if the town needs to consider getting a full-time code enforcement officer, I would urge them to do that, because if we're growing to that point where things, can't be done on a part-time basis, and I'm not throwing Brian under the bus, because Brian's done a good job for all the time that I've known him. So
Yep.
That's it for me. And if you have any questions for me, my email address is on that, or you know where to find it.
all right. Thank you so much.
Anybody have any questions for me before I leave?
No,
You want to try to be brief?
I know Brian is probably gonna be looking into this, and if he already hasn't,
Yes,
so
like I
we'll
said,
make sure.
I had a chance to just have a one-on-one with Brian in the lobby before you
Okay.
guys all got here. So
All right,
anyway, enjoy your meeting tonight, guys. Stay healthy and nice to see you guys.
okay, thank you. Okay, any other public comments? No, okay. So on the new business, we have reappointment of the local government efficiency task force member, terms through April of 2022. Karen Galome is the chair. Do you have something?
Yep, first, thank you for having me tonight.
All
Good
right.
evening. I am here on behalf of the Government Task Force
Mhm.
Committee. And my reason for being here tonight is, as you all know, this committee was set up beginning of last year as a temporary committee
Mhm.
to do an evaluation on things that we could do more efficiency, whatever, in our local government.
Yeah.
It was a temporary committee with an expiration date of March 31st of this year.
Mhm.
So the end of this month. Obviously, in 2020, being the year it was, we never really ramped up and started working together officially as a committee until like September.
Yeah.
I will have to say, for the short term, we've accomplished a ton.
Yeah.
We've, we've drafted the town survey. We put it together, we mailed it, we got it back. So now what we're doing is we're diligently going through all the responses. I want to take the opportunity to thank everybody who did respond, and I also would like to thank them for all the comments that were submitted. And we are actually going through methodically all the comments that people did submit.
Mhm.
It's a daunting task, but we're trying to do it very methodically, diligently, and we're hoping by at least the end of this year, it's not sooner, putting those recommendations together, not only for the Board of Selectmen, but for various other, public works, all those type of things.
Yeah.
So basically, I'm here to request that extend the expiration date, as I call it, of the committee until March or April of next year.
Mhm.
And also hope to have all the current committee members reappointed.
Okay.
So
No, how do you guys feel about doing one more year?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think there's
Matt?
a lot to be
Okay.
accomplished. Yep.
Yeah, no, and I'm sure I'm speaking for all of us. I want to thank each and every one of you for doing what you've done. Because it was a lot of work, especially the survey. So so I do appreciate that. Yeah, so I'll make a motion to reappoint all the local government efficiency task members, terms through April of 2022,
and also to actually extend the committee.
and to extend the committee.
Okay. And just Did you want to say something?
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay,
Did you want to have something to add to that or?
No, I just wanted to add a personal note.
Okay,
Okay.
we're just gonna vote on it then.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay, thank you.
And my personal note from me as a chair. I just, regardless of what happens next week,
Mhm.
I would like and hope that, Doug and Claudine can continue to work with the committee. They've been an integral part of the committee. They've done a ton of work.
Sure.
And I'd like to, give them an opportunity, to finish out the town survey. Not saying, just saying regardless of what happens. So
Okay,
appreciate all that they did. So,
sure. All right.
So since you're here, you want to be sworn in?
Sure, I can do that. The rest of the committee members will either have to attend a board of selectmen meeting or they can.
Go ahead and swear her in, and then we'll have everybody sign.
Okay, just raise your right hand. I,
I,
your name,
Karen Golab,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully and impartially
that I will faithfully and impartially
discharge and perform
discharge and perform
all the duties incumbent on me
all the duties that are incumbent on me
as the chair of the local government efficiency task force
as the chair of the local government efficiency task force
of the town of Milton of New Hampshire,
of the town of Milton of New Hampshire,
according to the best of my abilities,
according to the best of my ability,
agreeable to the rules and regulations
agreeable to the rules and regulations
of the constitutional laws of the state of New Hampshire.
the laws of the state of New
All right.
Hampshire.
Well, that's bumpy. Thank you. All right, and so I'll just he can just tell us where to sign. I don't want to screw that all up.
I know.
I think
Board member.
yeah, I just don't want to sign it in the wrong spot.
So Andy, right there, Karen, you put your name there.
The print.
Okay, thank you, Karen.
That's it.
All right,
I'm here too.
okay. All right, do they want them to sign that?
Yep.
Okay.
He's got all the rest of them.
Most.
I have to worry about on those signature line, your signature.
Oh, okay. Okay, so is that all you have, Karen? Okay, thank you so much. So appointment of the cemetery trustees alternates for one term. What do you have on that, Ernie?
Yes. We had a request for appointment from John Catwick for Sandy Woods and for Catherine Ayers. Now, last year you did appoint Catherine Ayers as a trustee, but it was for a 3-year appointment.
Uh-huh.
And by statute, it can only be 1 year. So they're asking that you just resign the paperwork. And we'll revote to appoint her for a year
Okay,
as well. And the same thing with Sandy Woods.
okay, that's fine. And then so do you want to take care of that first? Just 2 more, Claudine. Well, and maybe. And then, so up next is the ratification on the heritage.
You need to vote to appoint them.
Okay, yes, I apologize. I just need them back after, so I can read them. Thank you. All right, so I'll make a motion to appoint Catherine Ayers for a one-year term to the cemetery trustees. All in favor?
Aye.
And I'll make a motion to for Sandy Woods. Is she 1 year as well?
Yes.
Okay, for 1 year as well as a cemetery trustees.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. All right. So then up next is the ratification of the Heritage Commission alternate members.
So last year, when you made appointments initially, I believe it was July 20th, you made appointments to the Heritage Commission, you had more applicants than there were spots on the commission.
Uh-huh.
So the board asked to inquire of Ms. Ayers whether she would be willing to be an alternate, and she was.
Yeah.
And she ended up getting sworn in on September 24th by Matt, but she never was officially appointed by the board.
Okay.
So I checked with legal counsel. All I really need to do is to make a motion to go ahead and appoint her and then ratify her membership back to September 24th, 2020.
Okay, motion so said. How's that?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Okay, so up next, we have the approval of the contract for Sanders searches.
You actually, you already signed it. I mean, you can go ahead and approve it. This is something you do every year of the town for tax collector's office. You
Okay.
need to have it for tax deed property.
Uh-huh. All right. So, I'll make a motion to, approve the contract for Sanders Searches LLC.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay. All right, thank you. So up next is moving right along here, is the Great Bay Total Nitrogen General Permit. Mr. Sprague.
Good evening. Did Ernie or somebody get you all the memos that they sent out? So I don't know if you had a chance to read them.
Yeah.
But basically what's happened, as we knew what was going to happen, was the town and 12 other communities in the Great Bay have received this general permit for total nitrogen. And basically what it is a general permit that we can all participate in if we wish to. The memo, the first one up tonight, is whether we think the town should go through the formal opt-in process. This is a voluntary selection process that each of the communities will go through to make their own decisions of whether they want to opt into this permit or not opt into it. Basically, they're kind of using a carrot and stick approach. By opting into the permit, there are some benefits to all the communities. I think the big one for Milton probably is the forestalling of any significant money being spent on a wastewater upgrade. It's going to buy us a few years. We're going to get 2 years anyway, because the way the permit was issued was that EPA did not collect formal data on nitrogen from Milton back when they were putting the preliminary permit together. So what they've done is, and I complained about that, and they said, okay, take 2 years, develop your information, and at the end of that 2 years, we're going to give you a specific number. So that's what we're going to be doing. So we're going to have 2 years anyway, where we don't have to do anything at the wastewater plant. But at that point, if we're opted in, we're probably going to be able to maintain the status quo at that point, kind of ride things along, find out what's going on with other things at the wastewater plant. Can we get out of the river? Those types of things. I think that's a big advantage. If we opt in, we don't have to spend any money or a lot of money on plant upgrades. Some of the plants will have to spend some. A lot of them are just going to be more like Milton, where it's going to be a kind of status quo thing. What the EPA acknowledges and is hard to do in this environment, they acknowledge that most of the total nitrogen is coming from sources other than wastewater facilities.
Mhm.
They're not trying to say every single wastewater facility is going to have to meet what they call a limit of technology. That's very, very expensive to do. Millions and millions and millions of dollars to do that. So what they've opted to do is to allow the communities and Milton and everybody else look at some of these alternate nitrogen sources. Might be fertilizer bans, it could be sweeping your streets more often, cleaning your catch basins. All these things can contribute nitrogen to the source waters. So what they want to do is they're hoping to get everybody to participate in this permit. So those types of well, they all cost money, but those point source issues that the wastewater plants have, they can take that money that would normally go to that if we had our standalone permit. So if Milton decided not to opt into this, I think what EPA would do is they'd say, okay, you're not in this permit. You're going to have your own permit. And because you're not part of this comprehensive plan, you're going to have to do a plan upgrade, you know, to limits of technology or whatever they choose it to be for Milton. Now we're way upstream, a lot of dilution going on, a bunch of other things. So we might have to go to limit of technology, but I think there's going to be a major expense for the town of Milton if we do not opt into this plan and participate. By participating, I think you get the benefit of additional resources that the larger communities are going to bring to this.
Mhm.
Obviously, money, people, engineers, that sort of thing that we don't have now, that we can work with them on this overall plan. What I like about it is it's a voluntary thing. You could voluntarily opt in. We could live with it on an annual basis, 2, 3 years, whatever we want to do. If we find that it's not to our advantage, at some point, you can simply opt out of it and you would go to that permit, like I just said, whereby you're going to be out there on your own and have to anticipate expending some funds. So I think it's the town's advantage, at least on a short-term basis. I'm not going to say forever and ever, but at least on a short-term basis, to go through this opt-in process. It's a formal letter we have to send. I would recommend that the vote be to have Ernie, we'll draft it, have Ernie be the one to initiate the discussions with them, because we need to have somebody to do that. So put the letter together. If you so vote tonight, get that letter into them. Has to be in by April 1st in order to be in compliance. So we've got obviously the month of March to do that, but I think we should do it as soon as we can. So I don't know if you have any questions. So to be concise about the whole thing, but that's pretty much it in a nutshell. So
Yeah.
What's the downside?
the downside of not opting in is that at the end of the 2-year window that we have to collect the data, we're going to be assigned a number. It's going to be pretty high. A number like, say, 30 pounds of nitrogen per day. That's what we've been averaging. So we're going to be assigned that number. What the EPA is going to look at that and say, okay, all right, you're putting out 30 pounds per day. And they're going to look at the river, Santa Falls River and the Great Bay, and they're going to say, that's too much. Okay. You didn't opt into this, you can't use other means of total nitrogen reduction. You're going to have to fix it at the plant, and it's going to be a lot of money spent to do that.
Yeah.
I think that I haven't seen anything about this, but the way that I've have worked with these EPA and funding organizations, Farmers Home, and all those other things, that I think that there would be a greater chance of funding sources in the aggregate, as opposed to Milton being out there, by themselves. That's what I personally think, is if we're in this together, there's going to be more funding opportunities from EPA, federal government, these public works things or whatever they have might be going on. So, and-
So our contribution, it's gonna range from 370
no,
to,
that's a whole different. That's a different
so,
topic altogether. So
okay,
this
so,
is no cost to us.
okay, so it's no cost?
There's no,
So
so the
far?
opt-in, there's no cost here other than the fact that the operator, me at this point, somebody else later on, has to collect this data, whole bunch of data for 2 years
Okay,
and submit it on a regular basis like we do all their other data.
Yeah.
On a monthly basis to, well, it's a program that the EPA, CDX, they call it, Central Data Exchange. So all the information I'm going to collect for the next 2 years is going to go into that exchange. And at the end of that 2-year window, they say, Milton, this is your number. You're opted into this program. And so what's going to happen is that these communities, if you opt into this, they're going to kind of get together and try to figure out some alternatives to upgrading the wastewater plant. Now, I'm not going to, it may be to your advantage at some point to go and upgrade the wastewater plant. I just can't tell you that right now, or 2 years or 5 years, but at some point in time, if you could get out of the river, like we did in Farmington, if you look at that list, Farmington is not on that list. We got them out of the river. They're not on the list. I'm not saying that Milton can do that, but there might be a possibility you might be able to do that.
Yeah.
So those are the types of things that we can explore over the next several years. And if that process or a different process looks to have more advantages to the town, you opt out of the general permit and you go on your own permit, that sort of thing. So, but I think for the short term, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, I think it's to your advantage to be opted into this program at this point. So,
okay. Yeah, I mean, you're the,
you have anything to want to add to that? Okay.
you're the,
Has DES or EPA assigned a total number for what can go into the bay? Have they done that yet? Or are they still up in the air about that?
They are sticking with, they're still sticking with, I think it's a 100 kilograms per hectare. Everyone's English, whatever it is. It's not in acres, it's not in pounds. So if you want to do the conversion, we'd have to sit down with a calculator and figure it out. But as far as I know, there was some discussion from the larger communities that was not a fair number. Many comments on that part of it in the comments. It's a real thick report that I got back. And EPA stuck to their guns, said the 100 kilograms per hectare is what they're going to go with. So the goal is going to be to get the permit. Basically calls for the communities to do a lot of tracking, go out there, and they have to do what some of the other organizations, Piscataqua Regional Environmental something prep, whatever they are, we're doing a lot of the physical chemistry analysis of the rivers in the Great Bay. I'm not sure where they were getting funded from. I assume the state, private donations, EPA, Navy, but they were getting funded to do all the work. This permit says they will no longer do that work. The communities that belong to this general permit are going to have to fund that now. That's part of this, and track the total nitrogen. So if communities are say Dover put on a fertilizer ban, okay? And somebody's gonna crunch some numbers. And they're gonna say, well, there was a reduction of, 50 pounds, some of nitrogen going into the Great Bay. And that's all documented, everybody approves that, that goes into an annual report, so all the communities are gonna participate at the end of the year in this annual report, which is required. If we don't opt into this, that's a report that we have to do ourselves. I'd rather have some, other participants do that for us, and we just kind of, I shouldn't use the word piggyback, but at least we would participate, but not be responsible for that, for doing that report. At least get a couple of years under our belt so we can see what the report looks like, what the information in it has to be in order to meet EPA requirements, because none of that's done yet. So I don't know what it's going to look like. And I don't want the town to get, I'd rather have somebody with bigger resources than us look at that and do that reporting for us. And we're going to be a signatory to that basically at the end of the year, saying, and if Milton did through the highway department, if they opted to do, I'm not sure if you guys clean your catch basins once a year, clean, have them sucked out and all that stuff. If you do, that's great. If you do it twice a year, or if you sweep the streets, if you do a fertilizer ban where you're so close to the lake here, that sort of thing. There's things that you could do as a community that would go to the total nitrogen load to that day. So you would be participating in that reduction process, but not being by not being at the wastewater plant itself.
Seems like this would just play right into the RMS4.
That's kind of dovetails together with this.
Yeah.
Those are the same issues. See, the EPA, EPA has limitations on what they can mandate and do.
Yeah.
We have a direct discharge to the river, so they can tell us what to do. I live in New Durham. It's not part of this, but say New Durham, we don't have a direct discharge to the river. But if you think about it, all the septic systems, everybody that's fertilizing their gardens and their lawns, dog waste, whatever it is, it all goes into the ground, goes into the groundwater, ultimately makes its way to the Great Bay. EPA can't say anything about that stuff. They don't have any jurisdiction over that at all. But as an MS4 community, they can, if you were a member of that, then they have a little bit more control over what you can and can't do. So.
Yeah, no, so how do you feel about this, Matt? Are you on board?
Yeah.
Yeah. Claudine?
Yes.
Yeah.
Like I said, I think a couple of years, 3 years, whatever, we get to look at the work that's going to be developed on an annual basis. Is it something that we can do alone? Like I said, if the wastewater plant looks like it's something that we can do better on our own, those are things we can look at with the engineers and the board and so forth down the road. We don't have to be in this for a 5-year limit. We can get out anytime we want to. So.
All right. Ernie, do you have anything to add?
No, so the motion that you look for on this deal would be a motion to opt into the general permit.
Yes, at this point, and have you be the
And have me be the
signatory of that.
Yeah, I'll have more to, just a little bit more to talk about on the municipal.
Yes.
When you get to that.
Yep.
But for this, item, just to keep it separately, you can make that motion to opt in.
So are you guys all set with this? Yeah. Okay, so I'll make a motion to opt into the Great Bay Total Nitrogen General Permit. Go from there.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Dale, for your help.
All right, we'll take care of that in the next week or so. Get that get that going, so the EPA knows that we're participating. The next one may be a little more controversial, as this is the intermunicipal agreement that is a result of this general permit being issued. And it's lengthy. And hopefully you guys read it through. I did a couple times, trying to see if there was any catches in it. I think the one that you probably all saw and legal saw was this is a 5-year permit, and the board can't participate, and if you wanted to, in that, you could do it on an annual basis, which I think is what Ernie and I would recommend to you tonight, is if you so elect to participate in this agreement, that let Ernie talk to them. And with the understanding that it would be a one-year opt-in to this agreement, and with full anticipation of putting this on the warrant for 2022. But anyway, what happened is the larger communities, Rochester, Dover, and Portsmouth, all got together to recognize that there were a lot of common issues that maybe they were going to fight, fund, participate in individually, and decided that it made more sense to do it collectively and spread the costs around. And they've asked all the other communities to join in that agreement. The I think that obviously, these intermunicipal agreements are can be a problem for towns. I hope that this one might work out for everybody's sake. I think that the larger communities will bring a lot of expertise. Obviously, their cost sharing portions are significant.
Yeah.
The one thing they do retain is, if you read through this, is that the board of directors is they're the 3 main voting members there, with up to 2 other at large, would be Milton or whoever else participates.
Yeah.
So they are going to have a little bit of a voting advantage. I'm not saying this is again, it's like the opt-in part of the permit. There's so much unknown reporting and collection of data, and hundreds of thousands of dollars need to be spent, that for us to go out there and try to do this ourselves at this point in the game, I think is probably foolish. I think that the town would be better off, again, in the short term, because you can get out of this one too. This is not you're in it for life. If at some point in time, either because of the way that the voting board is made up, or the expenditures aren't to your liking, or whatever it is, that the town will be able to get out of this at some point in time in the future. But I think in the short term, 2, 3, 4 years, maybe for one permit agreement cycle, that I think it has enough advantages to the town to use these other resources, participate with them, and find out how this thing is going to work out. This is where the money part of it comes into.
Right, yeah.
You take this, what's going to happen is that in the permit, there's a whole host of work that has to be done. It's mandated. You have to do this. somebody has got to pay for all of that data collection, and it could be expensive. So what they want to do is, what these three cities have gone out and done is because of time is of the essence here, I think it's by July. It's by July, is that all the communities have to have some sort of plan in place that how they're going to effectively monitor the Great Bay, who's doing the testing, what they're going to do with all the test results, those types of issues.
Yeah.
So I think that they've already gone through that process. They've put some cost to that. And then what they did was they looked at it from a capacity. If you look at I think the last thing I gave it to you, the last page basically is the breakdown of the expenditures based on capacity. You can see that Milton is at the bottom of the list in terms of capacity, which is fine. It just means our proportion of expenditures is relatively modest. It is money, so it's not zero, but it's, it's not $100,000 a year. It's probably in the line of, I would guess, I wouldn't shoot for the law. I would say it's probably on the higher side. It's probably going to be a couple grand a year to participate. By the time these things get snowballing and rolling, if you don't know what these other cities are going to look at for expenditures, we don't know how this whole environmental thing is going to go, tracking the pollution and all this other stuff, all the reporting is going to get done, engineering agreements. I'd opt on the high side of maybe $500,000 a year as an aggregate number, which would put our portion at, say, around $2,000. So that way, they were not trying to fool anybody saying it's less money. I would guess it's probably going to be more in that neighborhood more often than not. So it's not the end of the world. I think for $2,000, we let these other communities. Obviously, you're going to have somebody's going to have to be on that board and go to these meetings. So I don't know who that's going to be. I haven't really talked about that yet. Somebody's going to have to go to those meetings and want to go to the meetings, and not just to fill a seat or something, but that really wants to participate in this process. So and represent Milton in that whole scheme. So I just think that I mentioned the 5-year problem with the Board of Selectmen in a 1-year agreement. I mentioned the large communities may have a different long-term agenda than Milton, which could be in those, our common goals initially may deviate at some point in time. So that's why you can, you can get out of the permit, read it. If you're at the end of the year and you paid your expenses for that year, you're out. If you elect to get out mid-year, then you're still going to be obligated for the funds for that given year, right? You can still get out. But
Right.
So those are the couple of the downside things to it. There's just a lot of vagary, I think, in the way that the permit. Nobody's done this before, so even the larger communities are going to be struggling, but we can all struggle together,
right,
to figure out what kind of reporting we're going to give to EPA. What kind of total nitrogen reduction projects that various communities could orchestrate, could put out there to help the overall permit.
Yeah.
So those things that they can all talk and discuss and figure out what's to everybody's advantage. So I would recommend that you participate in this agreement for the 1 year, allow Ernie to talk to them and let them know your situation. I'm sure they're aware of it.
Okay.
Anyway, but being the 1 year versus the 5-year agreement.
Okay. How do you guys feel about that?
Yeah.
Okay. Claudine?
Yeah, I think 1 year to see how it goes and.
Right, yeah.
Sure. Okay. Ernie, do you have anything?
Well, yeah, even with this agreement, if you choose to end it prior to the end of 2026, you have to give 30 days notice, so, and pay whatever outstanding expenses the
Yeah.
community has. You can opt out of re-upping at the end of the 5-year term with a 3-month notice.
Okay.
So, the escape potential is there, but this is much like MS4 in that, I think what they're trying to do is design a methodology that's going to be consistent for everybody moving forward, so that everybody's not reinventing and doing different reporting schemes for what's happening with the wastewater treatment facilities.
Yeah.
And that's what the goal of the MS4 communities were, banded together. And many of these communities are in that band
Right.
as well, in the Seacoast Stormwater Coalition.
Yeah.
So I think it's a great idea, and you see that cost ranging from, that you were talking about, was about $2,000 a year. You could easily spend,
Yeah.
many times that amount of money.
Yep.
We're taking a lot of advantage of what these folks have done already.
Right. Yeah, no, yeah, so I'm fine with it, and I think it's a great plan, a great idea. So, let these bigger communities really,
Yeah, I mean, it just
You know.
somebody will, I'll help out where I can from a professional standpoint, but I don't want, somebody's, like I said, there's not be a member there, but I could help them out in terms of, what they're talking about, that sort of thing. If they have questions about technical issues, that sort of thing, or I could go with them for a while until they kind of get the hang of it, that sort of thing. So we'll figure it out.
Okay.
And, we'll get the
So-
town represented, so.
so I'll just make a motion to go into a 1-year agreement for the intermunicipal agreement for the development of the adaptive water quality management plan for the Great Bay Estuary and the Great Bay Total Nitrogen permit. All in favor?
Authorize me to sign.
And I'll authorize Ernie to sign the agreement. Okay?
All right.
All right.
All I
Thank
have.
you,
We're all
Dale.
set, yeah.
Appreciate it. Okay, up next. Just gotta get back to my beginning here. Okay, so up next, old business update, the town hall operations.
Yes, you stated that you were going to town hall operations, and right now you have an appointment only schedule that's in place. That seems to be going very well.
Okay.
I personally haven't received any complaints about anything from anybody. I think one of the things that's good about it is when people do call to make their appointments, gives town clerk, tax collector's office, especially with motor vehicle and dog license and all these other things that they do at that office, they can sort of bundle them up, tell them, make sure that people know what it is they need to bring so that they can ensure they get it done at the appointment.
Uh-huh.
Again, I haven't received any complaints. I don't know how, what you heard out there, but it seems to be going fairly well in here.
Uh-huh. Now, the only thing I got was, getting a permit for the transfer station. It was kind of a pain just to come down here to get an appointment to get a permit for and this isn't gonna go on forever. And I know it's tough for everybody, but if, we could look into maybe putting the permits, if somebody wants to get a transfer station permit down at the transfer station, so they don't have to make an appointment just to come in for a transfer station permit. It's like, or, moving forward, hopefully this isn't gonna go into the summer or anything, but moving forward, even to get permits for the for the park, for the beach park, yeah, park for the beach, yeah. So that's the only thing I got. I mean, we can look at this again in a couple of weeks or a month, and you can talk to the people at town hall, maybe see, you know, how they feel about it, and then we can move forward, you know, maybe in another month to figure out. But that's really all I had. Do you have anything, Claudine, on the town hall?
No, I haven't heard any complaints, so that's good if it's working for everybody here.
Yeah. Matt?
No, I'm good.
Okay. All right. So, other business, come to the board is the tax deeded properties.
Well, this is actually, you had a couple of, one, I think, 254 Governor's Road is one that you brought up several times. I'd like the other ones that would go out for auction or sealed bids or whatever. We're just doing having legal counsel do the research to make sure all the noticing was done correctly so that we can do it and not have to worry about not having any issues after the sale. You know, the other thing too is this COVID-19 moratorium on well, never mind, that's a different issue. But as far as setting up an auction again, that seemed to go really well for you back in 2019. And you know, if you want to do that again, we'll go through the list of properties and bring you, you know, a list of 6 or 7 or so that you can do that with. You know, in addition to the ones that we know that you can actually, you've gone out to once with and you haven't got anything back, you can look at selling those specifically in accordance to the warrant article that was adopted in 1994 that gives you the authority to sell as justice may require. So, you know, there are a couple of them in that category, and then there's a whole list of town properties that consist of land, and there are tax deeded properties. The ones that aren't tax deeded properties, you can even look at some of those. That's a different process. That's a 4114A process that you have to get recommendations from the Conservation Commission and Planning Board on. But you know, you got tax deed, the 4114A, and then you've got the ones as justice may require. I'll try to put together a group of a little bit out of each of those categories where you're concentrating more on the tax deed property. So that you can look at getting rid of some of them that are just sitting there on the books and not collecting taxes.
Yeah. Yeah, no, most definitely.
That's a great idea.
Yeah,
And just move them.
I'm totally on board with getting rid of anything that we can. Getting it back on the tax roll, and actually it's a good time to sell stuff. You know, people are looking for projects and what's that?
People are looking if they just want
Yeah.
to be able to have
Yeah.
an
Yeah.
opportunity. We just need to get them all together.
Yeah,
So,
especially Dawson Street. It's another one that just,
Yeah, and of course, with that one, you need to, as I mentioned before, because the consultant, Underwood Engineers, have mentioned that you're gonna need probably a piece of that anyway for drainage easement, to put in infrastructure. We need to determine that as well. But I'll see if we can talk to them and find out if there's a portion of it that we can do up front.
Yeah.
You know, I mean.
yeah, most definitely. Okay. All right, thank you, Ronnie. And do you have anything on that, Matt, or you all set?
No, I'm good on that.
Okay,
The only thing I got is Fay Construction's looking for a request exemption from town ordinance 00-01 to access their property at 76 Pickett Hill Road during the time of road postings as outlined in RSA 41:11. Yeah, I'll just finish reading the letter. We have requested this and been granted this for the last several years. I do not anticipate any more than moving in a couple pieces of construction equipment that are currently on jobs. In the past, the only materials that were hauled from the pit was for town use hauled in town trucks. I've always contacted the Public Works Director prior to using Allen Hastings Way and Pickett Hill Road, even after being given the exemption in the past, and will continue to do so. Thank you for your consideration. David pay construction.
It's kind of been standard procedure, I guess.
Yeah.
So,
So,
no, so is that your motion?
motion so stated.
Okay, I'll second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so moving forward, is any public comments pertaining to any topics that we discussed tonight? Okay, nothing. So approval of the minutes for 2/3/2021 public session minutes. Have you guys read those? You all set with them?
Yes.
Okay,
There's
so I'm,
actually a set of non-public in there too, that I included in your packet, but.
okay. So I'll make a motion to approve those minutes as written, 2/3/2021.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And there's another one, Ernie, you said?
So, yeah, there was a set of non-public for that same time.
Oh, that same night?
that were attached, yeah. It should be in the packet.
Okay. Did you guys read those?
Yep.
Are you all set with them?
Yep.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to approve those minutes as well. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay. So up next is the expenditure report.
So that really isn't gonna mean a lot to you because
Right.
that doesn't have the budget input because you don't know what it is. I just gave it to you to show, what expenditure.
Yeah.
happened first.
Yep. I'm fine with that. Are you guys all set with that?
Yes.
With the budget, okay. Up next is the town administrators comments.
Well, just the March 9th, of course, you've got the election coming up. That's the high school. What we talked about at the department head meeting the other night was trying to get some signage out there and get some information out about making sure that the parking spaces in front of the entrance are reserved for people that have a handicap tag or plates and that are not taken up by people that are either campaigning or otherwise going to be there and take up the space for the whole day because we have a good number of people that are older that don't really need to be walking all the way from the parking area.
Yep.
So I'm going to put together some diagrams and get them up on the website and Public Works is going to put some signage out in front of there. I think at the election, it'll just be a matter of trying to manage that and making sure people aren't and just making sure those spots in the front are held open for people.
Sure. No problem. Sounds like a good plan. Okay. Do you know anything about the signs that we ordered? The electric, as Chief Kraus mentioned?
Chief Kraus told us at the department head meeting that they have been delayed. Doesn't know why, but it's a number of weeks. It was something like 4 to 6 weeks.
Okay,
So they're not going to be in time for that.
okay. All right. Well, it's a bummer, but, all right. So up next, Selectmen comments. Claudine?
Elections next week on the 9th. 8 to 7, right? So most of everybody try to participate. Look forward to seeing everybody there. That's my comment.
And all the good food?
Yes, and the homeschoolers will have their baked good table there as well to help raise funds. So
Okay,
thank you in advance for support.
you're welcome. Matt, do you have anything?
Nope, I'm good.
No, I was just gonna, I'll piggyback on what Claudine was saying. I mean, town elections are very, very important. They really hit your pocketbook. So if you, come out and vote, it's very, very important. So hope to see everybody there. That's all really I have. Anything else? So, everybody else all set? Okay. So we're gonna go back into is he here, Ernie? Okay, because we're gonna go back into a non-public.
Yeah, if you want to take a break.
Okay. All right, well, thanks, everybody, for coming. Have a good night, Karen. Yeah, so we're gonna go back into a non-public RSA 91A 3(2)(a). That's still on. That's still on.
Dave Payson, thanks.
Yeah, no worries. That's standard. Ever since I've been here, he's been doing that.